This is the AI Assisted Organization podcast hosted by myself, Piers and my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla. Hello, Aalok. Welcome back.
Welcome back. I am indeed. How are you, Piers?
You feel refreshed after your trip to Mumbai?
I do. It was a 2 week trip to India. I've not had a 2 week holiday in a long time, so it was really good. Sights and sounds, exploring, ideas, all refreshed.
Good. Got me chasing you around the place. Just like to get some stuff done, but there you go. What about my new update really is I'm doing an event this evening actually with Hayes McIntyre, kind of a mid-market accounting firm on artificial intelligence. So there's a bit of a panel there, so that should be quite good. Should be quite a good audience there. So I'm looking forward to that. So today we're going to do our usual sort of AI for business news. We always focus on business related news rather than sort of consumer fun and games. With a quick recap on the OpenAI event, the Dev Day last week, because you may have missed that, some of you. And then we're going to talk about some Implement AI updates. And then we're then going to talk about our theme today is going to be something which we both do, which is leveraging and using personal AIs to support yourself. So somebody who's not necessarily in the business, but how you work on the business using this technology. And it is super powerful. And if you're not doing it already, then after listening to this podcast today, you will be or should be. So let's crack on. So if you missed it, I'm going to go through this quite quickly. Our last podcast was basically just on this subject. It was the OpenAI Dev Day. And the big news is, so OpenAI are the people that have launched ChatGPT. And they had their first kind of developer day. So it's kind of a bit technical, a lot of it relates to the API and the back end, but they have launched some things you can use yourself. So the quick version is that they've been, so when you talk to one of these models, you may have a couple of lines of conversation, chat, sentences, paragraphs, but you can upload a lot of context. So it's your prompt and a lot of documentation if you want to, or just copy text into the actual window. And now you can talk to it too. So over long conversations, which want to provide a lot of context because I have no memory really yet, you have these things called a context window. And that was 32,000 tokens. So now they've increased that to 128,000 tokens, which means nothing to most people, about 96,000 words, about a 300-page book. So it's a lot of context basically. And they've made the API or use of the API cheaper by about a blended average of about 2.75 times. They've increased the rate limit, depending how you look at it, or decreased it. I'm not sure which one it is. So you can actually, you're not sort of limited now about the rate at which you can sort of ping the API, which was a problem. It's now multimodal. So if you've used ChatGPT, you may be frustrated by you've got to start a chat to use images, start a chat to use plugins, start a chat to just general conversation or to browse. Now you don't have to do that anymore. So in the same window or conversation, you can now, it's multimodal. It'll do all of that. So for example, you can now talk to ChatGPT Plus and you can say to it, please create me an image that looks like this, and it will go off and do it and respond with that image. And that's a major change actually in terms of using it. You can now fine tune the model with your own content. They've got a copyright shield, so if you are sued for a copyright breach, they're kind of going to back you up and hopefully pay out if the plaintiff wins against you. And the big news really is they've launched this thing called GPTs. And in essence, since they launched it, we've now been playing with these quite a lot. And the GPT really, if you think about it, it's a way of creating almost like another instance of ChatGPT Plus. If you haven't got ChatGPT Plus, you can't see this stuff. It's having another instance with another that's called a custom instruction. So basic kind of context you provide for every conversation. But you can now link it, it's still early days, to external data as well. That's inside ChatGPT that anyone can do. And they've also launched assistants. This is a similar thing, but it's more on the back end using the API. So it's got more capability, but you need to be able to write a bit of code. But on the GPTs, it's almost like a no-code front end to create your own ChatGPT for yourself with your own context, your own logo for you, your business. And it leads quite nicely into our theme this week. What else? And really, I mean, those changes don't sound like a lot when you rattle through them, but they are game-changing. And they've also killed, which is quite a lot of SaaS companies. The ones that were doing, they were doing things like, chat to your documents or, it's multimodal capability. And also they've now launched a text-to-speech capability as well. So you're now seeing, and we're going to come on to this too, you're now seeing that real-time conversation is becoming a reality with extremely lifelike and realistic voices. Have I missed anything on the dev day a lot.
No, no, you covered it. You covered it. And but I think like what this needs to mean to most people is like if you're a business owner, you can basically have your own tuned and customized version of GPT for your business. So imagine your marketing department want to write blog posts or write articles or write social media posts in your own style, and you've got a specific kind of customer and they want to respond in this kind of way. Well, now with your own GPT, you can tune it so you can have examples of previous posts, examples of your whole website information, everything. So what this means is that if any of your employees are working with your tuned GPT, it will answer pretty much how you want it to do. And that's a big deal, basically, because you can have your own customized versions for different departments or even for different functions as well. And we're going to come into that more. But really, this links into like the blog post from Bill Gates, which just came out recently in Gates Notes, where he talks about how essentially the way we're going to use computers is going to completely change. And now Bill Gates, he is obviously someone who sits on the forefront of computing from a long time ago, but he doesn't make big statements unless they're going to really kind of happen. He kind of like sits and waits a little bit to see it, but he's making very, very clear statement that like, AI agents and the way we interact with AI through like it's knowing what we want to do and working to solve situations and problems on our behalf is coming. So this is something you need to get into and start using within your company, definitely.
And we've been playing with this. We've created the Implement AI GPT. So that's got a custom instruction from us and also uploaded quite a few of our white papers, some of our documents, some of my blogs, my website. That's going in the sort of back end. So you can now, if you've got ChatGPT Plus, go and find the Implement AI GPT or email us, contact us, or if you sign up for one of our newsletters or white papers, you'll get an email that has that link in there, and that allows you to basically talk to our content essentially, which is pretty powerful. And again, as we always say, every day is early days in terms of AI. Um, Sam Altman finished the event with this quaint quip where he said that what we're showing you today will be quaint by this time next year. So watch this space, basically. These are going to become very, very powerful. And eventually they'll be able to talk to each other and communicate and collaborate. And that's what we do. So if you look at our white paper about AI agents, this is kind of what we're talking about, really. But obviously you have much more control over them when you're developing yourself. And that's what we're doing for our clients. Now, just on last week as well, because we got carried away with the OpenAI Dev Day, we won't dwell on it too much. It's been covered by the AI Safety Summit. So you are seeing organisations, nation states, focusing on safety in AI, which is clearly quite important. And on the other side of safety to some extent is, although Elon Musk turned up there, is Grok AI. So this is now the X AI, which is Elon Musk's AI business. And this is quite interesting. It's not really business related. It's just a way of demonstrating that these large language models can be given different personas or ways in which they respond. Or so, for example, if you use OpenAI DALL-E 3 to create images, it won't create images of women, or it won't ask questions about people to some extent. If you go onto Bing, which uses DALL-E 3, it's more open. You'll get more out of it. You can create things which OpenAI definitely will not create, and that's because they're sort of worried about people using these things for purposes which they don't particularly want them to. Now, Grok is quite racy. It will talk about things that most consumer AI models will not talk about, and it will give you sort of cheeky responses. And the interesting thing, Alok, isn't it, is
Yeah.
Elon Musk is saying that he's going to deploy this locally, obviously, but it won't connect it to the internet, inside Teslas.
Oh wow, yeah. So like, but I mean, the key thing is like it's all about the controls. So now it's not about the power of the models. It's about what the companies will allow you to and will not allow to do. For example, with OpenAI's ChatGPT, it will not let you solve a captcha. It can, but it won't let you do it. Basically, right? It blocks it. So in the same way, like when it comes to talking about like people like I don't know, like Donald Trump or whoever like they say in the past, where it considered it controversial, it would not give an answer. But like for example, Grok, it's got access to like real-time Twitter feed and it will also like answer things in it from a news context or things in a different way. So I think we're going to see where basically there's going to be a bit like media, really. You got like different editorial controls or different kind of like viewpoints. In the same way, I think Elon Musk is trying to be as close to truth, whatever that means. Based on as many different people's viewpoints and everything like this. But yeah, we're definitely gonna see different models and different people are gonna choose what kind of suits them the most. But for business use, I mean, yeah, apart from like live news or different things like this, you definitely so many options for you.
It depends on your business, doesn't it? I mean, they're trying to avoid things like gambling or adult entertainment. Or there was one example that's been all over
Yeah.
the internet about someone asking how to make, you had to sort of cook up some drugs, and it kind of gives you the answer, but then tells you that's probably not a bad idea and it's illegal and they don't condone it. So it's interesting where that's going to go. Another big news, I think, is that Amazon. So we talked about this a lot in the podcast. Is that Amazon? It's this sort of they've launched Amazon Bedrock and they've got various things trying to create this sort of a sort of store really for large language models, which who isn't? But they've announced, not really in too much detail, Amazon Olympus, which is a 2 trillion parameter large language model. And to give you an idea, some of the models that people are running locally are, 7 billion parameters. That's the kind of amount of data points that have been used to create the model. So this is enormous. Now they invested in Anthropic as well. So whether there's a connection there, I don't really know. It's interesting, isn't it? How you've got Microsoft and OpenAI, they're all doing their own thing. You've got, Amazon working with Anthropic, but are they then creating their own model which could compete with
Yeah.
things like Claude? The people are kind of hedging their bets. But the point here is that if this model is good, I'm sure it will be powerful, as Alok was saying. The power is not the issue anymore. It's its capability and how it's used, and it's and how it's sort of
Permissions.
permissions and its sort of tone of voice, even really. But imagine this now rolled out in Alexa, which is that's my big pet hate is Alexa, Siri, all these useless voice technologies. And I
But the
played
thing
around
is,
with a couple of years ago with Alexa. But I don't know if you've done this.
yeah, I've
Skills
got.
like the apps.
Yeah.
We've tried to get a skill. You can create
They
skills,
didn't
but they never
don't do
took
much.
off. Yeah, but now that was trying to bring intelligence and apps to voice. Now, voice is super powerful. It's kind of the issues, the kind of technical issues, gone away. So I think
Yeah, but now your phone is an Alexa. You don't need a separate Alexa, isn't it? Right? Like anything with a microphone and a speaker is an Alexa now, isn't it? So I think this kind of like voice first interface, and you look at the Humane Pin, which was just released this week as well. For example, I was watching some demos from that. Like all these voice first interfaces, they're just going to just crop up everywhere now. Especially when you hear the quality of the voices, like you're talking about. We're come into that a bit more.
and I'm looking forward to seeing this in cars as well because that's been useless since day one, really. So voice
Lifts.
lifts. Oh god, yeah. Imagine Grok in a lift chatting away to you about whether the cable's about to break or not, cracking jokes. So you can imagine that's going to be interesting. Another news which we'll come back to a lot, I think, on this podcast is the evolution of voice. So
Yeah.
these generative AI models they're kind of text based essentially. Even when it's imagery, it's the same sort of technology. The GPT, the generative pre-trained transformer model, and 11 Labs, which is one of our sort of favorite voice synthesis businesses, they've launched their V2 Turbo, and this is now where, you know, so if you talk to a model, it's then transcribing essentially what you're saying into text, analyzing it, creating a text output, and then it's creating speech as text to speech to get the out. And that can take a bit of time and it can be quite slow. And it doesn't really sound like you're talking to a human because there's too much of a delay. You may find that if you use Chat GPT Plus in the voice, you get this kind of delay. It's quite frustrating. But now that's going away. So whether it's Meta, whether it's OpenAI in their announcements, announced a text-to-speech model, or 11 Labs. I was playing with it earlier today, dropped some text in, and literally as you hit the button, it starts responding to you. And that was, I think it was a 380 millisecond delay.
I mean, I think voice is so powerful because, like, as we are surrounding with more and more information, like, so for example, when I was in India, so I was traveling around, and I wanted to catch up on some reading, but I didn't want to like read it on a mobile phone while I was in a car, for example. So what I did was I was using an app which actually then you can put the page or the text or whatever you want, and it speaks it to you, it reads it to you, and it was a very good quality. So these are not audio books; it was PDFs and even normal books, which I turned into the PDF, and the speech was coming. But just imagine that you can just straight away ask it back. Okay, can you summarize this bit, or what's the point of this? Like I bought like about 25 books when I was on holiday, and I was thinking that like I actually don't necessarily even want the book. I want that loaded into my AI, and then I wanted to teach and train me in those different ways. So I think a voice first interface is so much better because you can talk to things, explain things much quicker, and you can generate content much faster. When I was writing reviews for the hotels we stayed at, I just dictated it straight to OpenAI's GPT, and they asked it to structure it according to a review, and it did it very nicely and completely accurately, even with Indian names. So the accuracy of these systems is so powerful.
How do you upload the book into the AI?
I know. For that app, there's one app basically where you can actually like select either the page you want to upload or the PDF or script login or anything like that. It's a good
Oh,
app.
right.
I'll send you the link. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you purchase the book, I guess that then gives you the right, I suppose, to use it in that way. Maybe not to train a model on it,
I
depending on
bought
what your
physical books
copyright law
basically,
is.
but yeah, but what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say, but some digital versions of books I've definitely used that for. I didn't buy the
yeah, that's
audiobook.
quite
I have
interesting.
I have the PDF for it basically.
I'm not sure I own 25 books, but there you go. I'm probably up to like 5 a year at the moment. I'm more audible as well. But now we're going to come back to that because there's two things that we're going to focus on here on this point. Is that one is that I've been saying this on the podcast as well as the keyboards, right? I know you can't talk, you can't be chatting away to AI on a train; it's too noisy. So you're going to need some way of typing. But the keyboard, this ridiculous interface, it's been around for I don't know how
Yeah,
many years, probably 100 years, been typewriters.
it's friction.
But it's friction, it's tedious, it's slow. So the keyboard is going away finally. And the second thing is, and this is where generative AI becomes disruptive in terms of employment, is the need or the use case for having humans answering phones and responding to questions, customer service, that's going away as well. I mean, we said last week, I think, that drive-throughs have this capability now where you don't really know that you're ordering from an AI.
Yeah,
And as this text to speech improves, and it's already down to what, 380 milliseconds. So you imagine that as the AI is producing the text in the back end, it starts to transcribe it immediately. It used to produce the whole piece of text, sentence, paragraph, whatever it was, and then it would translate that into speech of any language as well. It's the other thing. Now it's not the case. It starts to translate that into speech immediately within a couple hundred milliseconds, and that means that call centers, receptionists, people just answer phones. The need for them is going to go away.
no, I mean the sooner all these systems get upgraded with these kind of like AI technologies, and I think next year we'll start to see this. It will really translate and transform even how websites operate, isn't it? Right? Like, I mean, why do you have to click search and it just be like talk to it, tell you what you want, basically, and it'll just be able to like only show you the parts of the website which are relevant for you, almost reconstitute it, isn't it?
Yeah, talking to technology is it's all about Star Trek, but that's where we're going to be. I think I was giving a speech at a school last week, and I was saying to these, I've never seen 100, probably 120 kids like just about to do their GCSEs so quiet. Half the time I'm battling with people throwing things or want to go and it was like they're literally just sat there quietly listening to everything I had to say about technology, the future, AI, what it's going to do for them, the opportunities, the threats, their career, how they should approach it, how they should use it. It was fascinating. But they're going to grow up in a world where you talk to technology and you can get things done, anything done.
Yeah, I mean, their world is just shifting basically. Like the rules of everything is just being changed right now.
Right, so let's get on to some implement AI updates. The white papers, so these are becoming, it's quite interesting. We spent a long time writing our AI agent white paper, and then things like OpenAI's GPTs have made it extremely relevant. So if you want to learn more about AI agents, personal assistants, which we're also going to talk about later, GPTs and how they work and where it's going and how they should work together. One theory is that if you have, this is, it's software and hardware, isn't it? Like the hardware's hyperscale cloud platforms, software exists. So if you can create what they call a swarm or a hive of these AI agents or
Yeah.
GPTs, and they've all got slightly different roles, and they're all working together. Does that create something which is tantamount to or similar to an AGI pretty quickly? So people think that, and that's what I was saying to those kids actually, is that 2023, 2024, that window, those 24 months, probably even 18 months, are going to be a watershed in the sort of human technology, human economics, and the way in which we work together, live together, communicate, and society generally.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
So the AI agent is going to change the world, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. And then our AI newsletter, if you haven't signed up for that, we had quite a few signups last week after the OpenAI Dev Day, which is why we did a bit of a summary because you may have missed it. Its newsletter had already gone out. And the big part of our business that is really sort of booming really is training. So people understand that having a tool is great. Then how to use it. It's like having an
Yeah.
instrument, isn't it? Someone hands you a saxophone. You can make beautiful music with it, but it's going to sound pretty rubbish without some training or practice. And that's what we do. So we've got the AI Implement AI Academy. If you go to our website, click on training, you can see all of the courses there. Most people start with things like content, prompt
Fundamentals.
engineering, AI fundamentals, just the basics, just to level up people in your organization about what this technology is, how it works, where it's going, and how to use it. And once you've got the basics done, you can start thinking about some of the more in-depth training courses that we offer. So training is your first competitive advantage, really. And AI Activates, that's our 60-day sprint. We've closed off a few of those in the last few weeks with clients. And that's policy, governance, strategy. It's about looking at your business, automating some workflows, developing an MVP or deploying one of our AI agents, and coming up with a plan of how you go from being, having no AI to being, as AI assisted as you possibly can within the reasonably near future. I think also it's worth mentioning. I think this podcast is doing quite well, so we're thinking of sort of stepping it up, probably going into next year, and maybe start to have some guests on there, specialists to
Yeah.
talk about things that we don't always have all the answers. We have to do our work and really get some experts on here to add some real value. So we'll come back to you on plans for that. Right, let's talk about personal assistants. So this is the future of AI, really. So you've got to think this is why the internet's going to go away. So you're going to have this abstraction layer between a consumer or you, us, and it's going to be a personal AI. It's going to know how you think. It's going to read all your emails. It knows what news you've read. It knows your state of mind almost. It knows your heartbeat, your pulse, your temperature. It knows where you are. It understands your personal situation, probably even your personal finance. But it knows more about you than probably you do in terms of all in one place, all at
Yeah.
once. So this AI understands that. You're going to have corporates who have their own AI with all their product information, and they're the ones that are going to communicate in terms of buying and selling things. That's where the economy and those transactions are going to happen. Now, but these tools, and I was saying to people at another event last week, I was saying that Chat GPT Plus, right, which is probably the state of the art at the moment, especially after last week, is an immensely powerful tool. I said it's like being forced into a fist fight, a serious one, and you can take Iron Man with you, and you can't be bothered. Right? That's what it. As far as I'm concerned, that's what it's equivalent to. So using these things, it's not just having some stupid chat and trying to catch it out. These are extremely powerful tools, aren't they, Aalok, that we use all of the time. And there's Perplexity AI that you can go in there. You can add context. It'll reference and source everything it tells you. You've got Pi, which is developed by one of the co-founders of DeepMind, and that's raised a huge amount of money. And that's kind of wants to be a personal assistant. It's more sort of focused on you, the individual, supporting you generally, and maybe your state of mind, even your mental health. You've got, Grok, which is probably more of not really a personal assistant, but it'll give you a view of the world through quite a different lens. But the
They're
one
all
we
gonna
tend to use is ChatGPT, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're all going to connect into like commerce, transactions, shopping, looking at wherever you want to go to, basically. Because they before it was the Google White search box, which was the gatekeeper to all intents in the world, whether it was like finding out information or buying something. But now, I mean, like with Vision, for example, just snap a photo of something. What do you want? Find me the cheapest one, which can be delivered by Tuesday. And then there'll be all sorts of situations where even places you didn't even consider or think about will be listed for you, will be shown for you. The AI will just be ruthlessly efficient. And so you need to like prepare for this world basically where essentially, it's going to be the decision maker and the kind of like the messaging agent to find out all the information on your behalf and protect you and your time. But I think next year there's going to be some very, very large shifts in the way things are shopped and bought and, like how we even discover new things. It's going to change a lot.
And that's an interesting point, isn't it? It's initially these things are going to support you, augment you, assist you, guide you, whatever you want to call it. But there will be a day will come where you just say to your personal AI, I want this barbecue I always talk about, and you'll just get a barbecue. That'll be it. There'll
Yeah.
be no more conversation. It'll follow up. It will be autonomous, and it will make the final decision based on all of that information and context it has about you, and invariably it'll make better decisions than you will because it won't suffer from human bias.
Yeah, and even things like, like processing a return. I'm sure it'll be able to like do that and write the email for you much quicker and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start seeing this integrate into many different platform solutions. And as a business owner, if you can add some kind of AI first interface for your customers to make it easier to transact with you, it's something to really think about.
So what we're talking about here, though, are personal assistants, right? So normally we talk about AI in your business. So going from having no AI in most cases to being, AI assisted to eventually an AI first world down the line. But there's an enormously important use case, which is using them yourself. So not in the business, but working with you on the business. So I use this quite a lot. So I often, and now you can talk to ChatGPT Plus. I've sat in the car driving up the M6 to the Northwest and M1 quite a few occasions, chatting away to ChatGPT Plus for 40 minutes. I've done enough after that, to be honest with you. And that's with this kind of slight delayed conversation. When it's real time, or when it's even butting in to
Yes.
into a conversation, which is what you actually want, to like a human say, no, I don't agree. That kind of conversation, it's going to change the world. So we've got a list here of things that we use it for, which you can use it for. So one of which we've used it for, and I use it for particularly, is strategy. So it's having a strategy, having a plan, having an idea. You want to make a decision, or you want some feedback on something, and they are infinitely patient. They don't suffer from bias, and you can tell them not to, or you can give them bias if you want to, so they do suffer from it, but for particular reasons. The customer feedback, competitive landscapes, how should you progress, and is your strategy right? Does it make sense? And you get feedback. You get feedback that you wouldn't get from somebody else, because some people don't want you to, they don't want to give you bad news, or they suffer from by their own bias.
I think one of the things that I like the most about it is normally if you were going to like a new sector or trying something new in business and you didn't have any experience in that, you don't know what good looks like. So the problem is you're trying to like find a friend or a colleague or someone who can give you kind of like an overview of how something could work, And before, people who were successful at networking and could get information, they would then have a model of approximately what good looks like. Now with this, I've looked at different situations and I've said, okay, what does this situation look like? Or give me an overview of this, or what would that look like in there? And you get a very detailed, competent answer from this. So it really does unlock a whole new way to learn and definitely strategize 100%.
Let's rattle through the list that I've made. So another one is, and this is where it starts to sort of replace PAs and personal assistants to some extent, is productivity enhancement. So it's looking at your diary, scheduling things. Now, they're not very good at this yet, but it's getting there. So you can now see, for example, that ChatGPT Plus, you can create a personal assistant GPT, for example, and now using platforms like Zapier, which connects it to other pieces of a software as a service typically, you can now talk to your diary, whether it's Google, whether it's Microsoft, and it can look at your diary, understand your diary, and pop things in or take things out or remind you. So you're getting to the point now where a personal assistant actually becomes what you would normally describe as a personal assistant. That will be 2024.
Yep.
Learning, so professional development learning, keeping you up to date. This can be regulatory compliance, it can be legal updates. We always say that your doctor has not read, or your surgeon or your consultant has not read the 5 papers that were released last week that could have completely moved the dial in their field. They haven't had time, whereas this technology does have the time, and it can absorb everything, and it means that you can then tell it what does it need to keep up to date with? What does it need to learn? What does it you need to track and follow to make sure you're top of your game? And it can do that.
For learning and for teaching, like yourself, it's so powerful. Like, I mean, the range of information that's within there. I'll give an example. When I was in India, I was trying to find information on some really ancient books. They're like more than 3,000, like 2,500, 3,000 years BC, basically. Okay. And they're like quite hard to kind of get hold of. And I was asking GPT if it was trained on the Vedas, basically, and it was. And it was able to give me quite a lot of detail in a particular book within the Vedas, which I want to know. And I actually met a scholar like when I was there, and he was giving me some information. But for the ability to learn and teach yourself, and even within new areas of say project management or different things like this, or you want to learn like Six Sigma, you want to learn lean manufacturing, or you want to learn how to organize yourself, or different things, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You want to apply that whole matrix to your own work and your own ideas. It's so good for teaching you. and also you can talk with it and give your context. It will give you a good answer from it. So that isn't learning how to learn is a meta skill, and AI is like so powerful for that.
And also, as it kind of continues on from there, really, it's kind of market research. So now that most of these AIs are connected to the internet, OpenAI ChatGPT is now up to date as of April 2023. Grok is connected to Twitter, but increasingly they're connected to a browser, so it doesn't really matter to some extent. So they can search the internet, they can do market research for you, and they can access information that you're probably unaware they've actually absorbed during their period of training. So that's really important. Drafting documents. I mean, if you're not using artificial intelligence for this, you really are missing a trick. Whether it's an email where you've got writer's block, whether it's your website, whether it's your business plan, whether it's a note to your colleagues, whether it's just, as you were saying, Alex, when you're away, you're just talking to it and it's transcribing your
Yeah, writing.
thoughts and then
So writing
summarizing them.
reviews. So imagine, like for example, you're a local business, right? Or even even for me, like I like to write reviews when I go to a place we see something good. So I was staying at a hotel. I wanted to write a review. I just dictated it straight into ChatGPT, and then I asked it, please reformat for a review website, and it gave everything in sections, like the excursions and tours, the cleanliness, the room facilities, the location, and everything was broken down very nicely, much better than I would have done. And I literally just talked while I was, in a taxi on the way to the airport in like 30 seconds, and it was done in a very nice way. So it's so much easier to just pick up your microphone, talk to it, and ask it to like rewrite it for you. It's just so much easier.
And if you combine that capability, the research capability, asking questions, questioning your own strategy, what you then have, and the natural next place to go is just brainstorming, just like,
Yeah,
whiteboard stuff. Just look, these are my skills. This is what I've got. This is how do I make money? How do I do this? Just literally having a whiteboard. And it can be quite hard starting with your own whiteboard. Usually you want to do it with a group of people. Any more than one human is always better than one. And now you've got as many as you want. So you could actually create,
yeah,
look at using GPTs. You could have, I don't know, 5 GPTs with slightly different persona, slightly different
yeah.
focus, different context, and ask them all to collaborate and talk to you and help you brainstorm. It's like having 5 different people in the room.
People talk about like having like your kind of like your advisory board, your fantasy advisory board, and like there's like different people that might say, okay, in my fantasy advisory board, I think to myself, how would Elon Musk approach this? How would Steve Jobs approach this? How would like Satya Nadella or someone else approach this? Or how would Stephen Covey address this? How would Anthony Robbins address this? Or whatever it is, basically. But you can actually do that now, and you can get the viewpoint in those different ways. And honestly, you don't feel there's so many questions that we want to ask that sometimes we feel scared of asking because we think they might look stupid, right? The beauty of AI is you can ask any question and get upskilled and build your confidence very quickly because it will never talk down to you and it will just give you the information.
So that's a really big one. If you haven't tried that, just go in there and ask it to respond to you or to brainstorm with you, in a way in which the person of your choice would do, and prepare to be amazed because it really can change things. And what this really does is just, even if it's not quite right, it means that it's just a different perspective. It helps creative thinking, it helps innovation, it helps you access different perspectives, things you never would be able to. Quite often, organisations, especially small ones, they're not as diverse as you might want them to be. I don't think in terms of ethnicity, just diversity of thought. Everyone comes from quite similar
Yeah.
backgrounds, and this can kind of open a door to a very different perspective, which can add real value. Another one, the financial analysis. So whether you're using what's called code interpreter, and that's kind of lost into the multimodal chat GPT, there are other AIs that do this quite well, is uploading data, financial information, market research,
Your own
and just
bank
asking it,
documents.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, tell me something I don't know. Yeah, your own bank statements, actually.
I've
Tell me
done
something I
it.
don't know.
I wanted to spot some business transactions which I'd made on a personal thing, and I just asked it to do that. It was able to like summarize it basically.
Your entire history of your bank account, and analyze it and say, what can I do better? That's
Yeah.
I've never thought that one. Yeah, that's fascinating actually. But you can upload anything, and it won't just tell you, the known kind of unknowns. It's the unknown unknowns where these things are really powerful. And risk assessment as well, and risk management. So this is something that people don't want to focus on quite often, but you can use these things to look at your business in your own time, or look at particular risks or your risk register and analyze it. Your risk register often will go through it, like everything's medium risk, medium impact, which is useless. You want to have some kind of, a risk register or something that actually makes sense. So you can ask it to analyze your risks and put them into the correct categories so that you are managing your business properly and more effectively. And the last one, really, I think, is leadership and team management. Is how do you interact with people? How do you, the practice of leadership, learning about team building, conflict resolution, employee engagement, all these things that, you're not born with this know-how or knowledge. You may have learned it in business school or on the job, but in some cases you haven't. And this gives you the ability to access all the information. And let's face it, your business success is generally based on the success of your team.
And now you've just got like a digital team member as well that can add and supplement everything.
So we've run through a few there. We could go on for hours about this, but what we're trying to say here is choose your AI. We tend to use OpenAI's ChatGPT Plus, and
or Claude.
Try it. Or Claude's quite good as well, actually. Yeah, go through. It's not quite as multimodal though, but
it's funny, isn't it? A few weeks ago, we were like the other way around.
I know, we were like, Claude's great, big context window. Yeah, but I think within a year there'll be a million token context window.
I'm waiting to see this Amazon one.
Well, yeah, flipping it. So if you do one thing this week relating to your own personal transition to becoming AI assisted, it's going to choose one and start using it and prepare to be amazed. And I guarantee you, whether you're paying $20 a month, whatever it might be, it'll be the best $20 a month you've spent this month. So on that note, AI of the week. I think there's been about 3 times now. It's 11 labs, Aalok. I don't know what you think. I haven't really had the chance to play with Grok yet because things like that, because you can't get access to it. But if you haven't used 11 labs, just I guess on the homepage, I don't need to log in, I don't think. But just go in there, drop some text, it will generate some text for you. And listen to how quickly it responds. And that's going to educate you and make you understand that how quickly the extremely natural conversations in any language, that's the other powerful part of this, is now upon us. And within 2024, by the end of 2024, it'll be the way in which most businesses prefer to communicate with their customers, I think. Right, so if you haven't signed up for AI Insider newsletter, please do. It covers a pod. We have some insights every week. We get that out to you. We've got quite a few subscribers now. Download our white paper, especially perhaps the AI agent white paper. Hopefully you've all read the AI assisted organization white paper by now. That's our framework. But the agent paper, I think, is we were kind of ahead of the game.
Tells you where things are going, basically.
Yes, exactly that. Telling where things are going, and very quickly as well. Follow the pod. Please rate us on your platform of choice, especially Apple. That really does help us. And we're looking at stepping this up going into next year. So please do rate the show. And that's it for this week. So another hectic week. And we hope we've added some value. But this is the AI Assisted Organization podcast. We'll see you again next week.
See you next week.